Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, I go chapter by chapter in our first book of our book series, where I share teachings on each individual chapter. This week, this Sunday coming up, we're going to be in chapter 11, which is titled Meditation, Developing Your Practice, where I'm going to be going through in detail, helping students to understand the ins and outs of the 4 types of meditations that the Buddha taught, because he only taught 4 meditations, and those meditations are helping the mind to move to this enlightened mental state. Where on Wednesdays, what I do is I help students just by guiding you in a meditation session, and then I open up to any and all questions that you guys have afterwards. I'll give you guys a little bit of a taste of what the teachings of the Buddha are after our meditation, but we start with meditation. The Buddha taught how to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. So you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this is eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are actually caused by something external, but you can see through the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is why you can actually eliminate them. Whereas if it was other people that was causing you to be angry or frustrated or sad or any of these other discontent feelings, you'd never actually be able to eliminate them. So what I do here is help students to be able to learn, investigate, and examine the teachings of the Buddha, reflect on them to independently verify them, and then to practice them, training the mind. There's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha that is based in belief. So you're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning, growing, and developing now in this life, helping to get you closer and closer to the enlightened mental state. The Buddha figured out how to do this on his own. That's one of the criteria of a Buddha, is that they will figure out how to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. And then they will dedicate the rest of their life to sharing those independently discovered teachings with countless people. And countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So what I'm going to do is guide you guys in a meditation session, and as I mentioned, then I'm going to share some teachings, just a little bit of a taste of what the Buddha taught, and then I'll open up to any and all questions that you might be interested to ask related to anything that I share or anything that's on your mind. When we get to the point of questions, we have microphones here in the white bowl. You just press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on, and you'll be able to ask your questions. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. In terms of the meditations that I teach, there's 4 different meditations that the Buddha taught. And today what we're going to be doing is what's called loving kindness meditation. Let me just switch over to some visual aids here. We're going to be doing loving kindness meditation, which I teach this at different times during the various programs that I share. But today I'm just going to introduce it to you and do it with you so you get a chance to experience it. What this meditation is designed for is it basically transforms your mind away from anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions too, like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike towards other people. When you like somebody, you might think that, wow, you really like this person. And when you dislike somebody, you might actually think that that person is causing you to dislike them. But it's actually your own mind that's doing this. You can get to the point where you have love and kindness for all beings. But when you have certain expectations in your mind, you want everybody to be a certain way. When they meet your expectations, you will like them. But when they don't meet your expectations, you will dislike them. And this is where your anger and frustration and agitation and annoyance will come up. And now you might become unskillful through your intentions, your speech, and your actions as you interact with people, damaging your relationships. And now as you put out that hostility and bitterness in your day-to-day life, that comes back to you. This is the cause and effect. That as long as you put out bitterness, harshness, and hostility, it's going to come back to you. And you can independently verify this for yourself because you can see in your relationships that you struggle the most, where you're bitter and harsh and hostile, that's all coming back to you in those relationships. Oftentimes, the way we think to change our relationships is to change the other person. That's usually what the unenlightened mind wants to do. And that's from its lack of wisdom. But when you gain wisdom about these teachings, you start to understand that the way to really transform your life is to first work on your own mind. And when you're working on your own mind and becoming more loving and kind, and you're putting that out more and more, that's what you will experience coming back to you. So this meditation is essentially going to help rewire your mind to be more loving and kind and warm and gentle. What loving kindness is where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you have active goodwill towards others. And this isn't a meditation that's just going to instantly produce that for you. You're going to need to gradually train your mind over a consistent long-term period of time to completely transform your mind, where you can be loving and kind with every single person that you interact with. Right now, that's probably a struggle. There's probably certain people that you're not loving and kind with. You don't have to feel guilty about that. You don't have to feel shameful. You're not a bad person. It's just what the mind does in the unenlightened state when it has these pollutions that the Buddha discovered. But when you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, you'll see that the mind can be more loving and more kind. And not only does this meditation help you to be more loving and kind to others, but it'll help you be more loving and kind to this being who you are as well. Because sometimes people have a negative self-talk in their mind, like a diminishing inner dialogue where you're degrading and diminishing yourself. And if you tend to do that, this meditation is going to help you transform that too, because you don't need to walk around with those negative thoughts going on in your mind. You can get rid of all of that. It's not permanent. So you can get to a point where you have love and kindness for this being who you are as well. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then I'm going to guide you in what's called a breathing mindfulness meditation session. This is a meditation where you're going to be focused on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. We're going to do that for a brief period of time. But then we're going to come into the loving kindness meditation, where you're going to hear me saying these phrases or these affirmations. I'm going to say, may I be peaceful. And you're going to hear me say that out loud. And then what you would like to do is repeat that within your own mind on the out breath. Then you're going to hear me say, may I be safe. And again, repeat that in your own mind on the out breath. May I be well. Then may I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. Each one of these phrases you repeat on the out breath. This is just a visual aid, but then I'm going to go to say, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontent. I'm going to do 6 individual rings. And when you hear each one of these, I'm just creating a meditation that applies to all of us. So I'm going to be using phrases like mom and dad and friends and family and things like this. And this is where you're not trying to change the other person, right? We're not trying to change mom and dad through our meditation because that's not possible. What you're doing is you're transforming your mind to be more loving and kind towards these groups of people that we're going to be using these rings for. And then when you're around those individuals, you could be more loving and kind. And then that's where the real transformation in your mind and in your life is occurring. So we're not trying to change other people here. You're transforming your mind to be more loving and kind. And then when you're around those people, you'll experience the ability to be more loving and kind. But there's more teachings besides just this. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to the elimination of anger and bitterness and harshness and hostility. You're going to need other teachings besides this. But this is the meditation that I had planned for us to do today. After the loving kindness meditation, I'm doing these affirmations. We're going to go back to breathing mindfulness meditation for a brief period of time. Then we're going to come out of that meditation with some more chanting. And I'll guide you through this meditation so you'll be able to understand it and be able to practice it. And you'll be able to see potentially some results even from today if this is your first time doing this. So the way I start, as I mentioned, is with the chanting. And there's chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. If you guys would like to get a chanting sheet, you're more than welcome to chant along, because these chants will actually help you to ease your mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So you're welcome, help yourself to get some chanting sheets. For those of you guys online, you'll be able to find this chanting sheet on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com, and you can click on free books. And if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see the daily chanting sheet that we use there. So as you guys are getting the chanting sheets, I'll just chat with you a little bit here and help you to understand the origins of chanting so that you'll understand where it's coming from. During the lifetime of the Buddha, chanting was used as a way to commit the teachings to memory. That every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because everything that the Buddha taught was oral. They didn't have the technology to write things down during his lifetime. So every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally in order to commit the teachings to memory. Because then once you have memorized the teachings, then you can actually practice the teachings. So when you're chanting these, it's important that you don't see it as a rite or ritual or ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that, because that's not what this is. The Buddha never taught any of those things. You won't find any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. If you've seen those things attributed to the teachings of the Buddha, those are misunderstandings. People aren't understanding what he actually taught. Because if you look at his original teachings, he never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. So when you're chanting these, today the way we use it is to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used purely as a learning tool to be able to commit the teachings to memory. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha doesn't go around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be arrogance and pride and ego. And someone who's gotten to enlightenment, they don't put themselves above others and look down on other people. They also don't put themselves below others either. They consider everybody to be equal. So a Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these to me out of respect for me, right? So I think that these actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. Because if you learn from a teacher how to move to the peace and the joy that is enlightenment and eliminate all that anger and frustration and sadness and all those other discontent feelings, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's where I suspect these chants came from, is probably his students. Again, after the chanting, we're going to then go into the guidance, and I'll guide you in the meditation. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught, because your body can't be in the same position permanently. So there's seated, lying, standing, and walking. This loving kindness meditation, we typically do it in either the seated, lying, or standing positions. We don't do it in the walking position. So you would learn these different positions at different times. It's kind of like having a tool belt and assembling this tool belt to be able to then practice the teachings of the Buddha. You would learn many different tools in order to transform your mind. And the body positions are a certain tool that you would learn. But oftentimes when people are first starting, they're learning in the seated position. So I'll give you guys a little bit of guidance on the seated position to be able to help you today find something that's comfortable for you. It's not about everybody sitting in exactly the same spot, because this isn't actually possible. You would need to find whatever's comfortable for you. So what I'm going to share with you are just things for you to consider, things for you to think about, but you need to find whatever's comfortable for you. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This kind of makes it feel a little bit softer, more comfortable to sit. And some people like to bring their legs together in the cross-leg position. And if you do that, you like to just do it lightly so it doesn't impede the circulation in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So that might be something you consider as well. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way, because this isn't actually possible. Everybody's body is a little bit different, so you can find whatever's comfortable for you. Some people like to put their hands flat on their thighs or on their knees or their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can find whatever's comfortable for you with your hands and arms. And that goes for someone who's in a chair or maybe on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you're comfortable as well. You might consider putting your feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With your sternum up and your shoulders back, it'll help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert while you're actively training it. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle where it's able to be attentive and alert with the mind, and it makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into the meditation with some chanting. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Makewa Wat Tung Makewanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Emakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Emakewato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhoto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Wat Tung Mahakevanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakevata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakevato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. Today's our group learning program, and what I do on Wednesdays is just do some meditation with you guys, and then I'll just share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha with you, and then open up to any questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha, anything that you're learning or seeing in other places. If you have certain personal challenges that you're struggling with, you can ask any and all questions that you like. When we get to the question period, like I mentioned, we have microphones up here. If you could just come get a microphone, and then you can take it back to your seat with you if you like. Just press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and you just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And you can just keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. You can just share the microphone. And if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that would be helpful so we don't get any feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom and then unmute your microphone and ask any and all questions that way if you like. So this meditation, loving kindness meditation, as I was mentioning, it's to transform your mind away from the anger, the hostility, the bitterness, the frustration, the agitation, the annoyance. All of those things can be completely eradicated from the mind. You wouldn't be able to just use this meditation and only this meditation. There's other things that you need besides this, but this is an important aspect of essentially rewiring your mind. When we're doing those affirmations of may mom and dad be peaceful, may I be peaceful, all those different things, you're not invoking some special power in order to make that happen or to make that occur. What you're doing is you're transforming your mind. You're essentially rewiring your mind to be more loving and kind. It's kind of like filling up your gas tank, and then you go out into the world and you're practicing being loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And this is where the other teachings of the Buddha come in, helping you to be able to understand how to practice being loving and kind through your intentions, speech, and actions. He's not giving you rules or commandments. He's not trying to force you to do anything or convince you to do anything. He's not using guilt, shame, or fear or anything like that. He's just helping you to understand what it took for him to get that peaceful and joyful mental state. He's helping you to be able to see that for yourself and how you can accomplish that same thing. So you can learn, reflect, and practice his teachings to be able to see that they actually work. So this loving kindness meditation is something that you normally do in the morning because it'll kind of fill up your mind with this loving kindness, and you can go out into the world and be more loving and kind. You're not going to be able to snap your fingers and instantly be loving and kind. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that'll gradually wear away this anger so that then you can be more loving and kind in the relationships around you. And then that's where you're going to see love and kindness coming back to you more and more. You shouldn't practice loving kindness because you want other people to be loving and kind with you. You need to be able to practice it so that you know that it's the wise thing to do. That continuing to be angry and bitter and harsh and hostile isn't going to produce beneficial results in your life. And as I mentioned at the beginning, oftentimes the unenlightened mind thinks that this anger and hostility and bitterness is coming from other people. You might firmly believe that right now, that other people are annoying you or other people are frustrating you. But you can study through the original teachings of the Buddha, his very first teaching. It's called the Four Noble Truths, where you can learn this teaching, you can reflect on it to verify it, and you can practice it to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Essentially, what the Buddha helps you to be able to understand is that the problem that every unenlightened being is experiencing is what's called discontentedness. Discontentedness are conditioned feelings that based on some condition, you will then experience a feeling. There's something in the mind called craving, desire, attachment, this longing, this yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. The mind is chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it and chases it. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst that the mind has. It might be chasing money or a new boyfriend or new girlfriend or some title or prestige or something like this. The mind thinks that something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction, so it chases it and chases it and chases it and chases it. If the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy and excited and elated. It gets pleasant feelings. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And because you live in a world that is impermanent, where it's constantly changing, you can't ever experience where you always get the things that you want. It's just not possible because you live in an impermanent world. So the mind craves permanence in the unenlightened state. It's longing, yearning for permanence. And then when it experiences impermanence, it doesn't like that. It doesn't like that change. So it experiences the painful feelings. And because the mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence, but yet it lives in an impermanent world, it constantly experiences frustration, agitation, and annoyance over and over and over again. But you can train your mind to no longer do this. So let me give you some examples so you can see this in your own life. Like, let's just say somebody really is attached to the sun. They're craving and longing, yearning for it to be sunny outside. And when they wake up in the morning, it's sunny outside. They're like, yay, it's sunny. Let's go outside and play. This is going to be great. We're going to go hiking. We're going to go on a hiking trail. Oh, this is so fun, so exciting. Let's go outside. It's sunny outside. Yay, right? And now you go take a shower. And now when you come out, it's raining. And now you're frustrated. You're agitated or annoyed. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's all that's happened. It went from sunny to raining, right? But if the mind craves permanence and it craves the sun to be permanent and you form your feeling of happiness based on the sun, well, when the sun changes, you can't be happy anymore. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness, is because the mind is basing its happiness on some impermanent condition. Here's another example. Say you get really happy and excited when your bank account balance is up here, but then it goes down here. Now you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed. All that's happened is change. That's all that's happened. It's just changed. But the mind is craving that permanence. So you can see that it's not other people that's causing these feelings for you because there's no other person involved. It's just the sun changing to rain, and it's just your bank account going to here. Here's some other examples. Think back to a boyfriend or girlfriend that you got together with. Maybe you were really excited and happy when you got together with that person for the first time because you didn't have any wants or expectations. You were only just interested in getting to know this person. So at the beginning of the relationship, it was going really well. You were having all these pleasant feelings. But then over time, as the relationship went on, you started having all these expectations, and they started having expectations of you, wanting you to do things a certain way, and you wanting them to do things a certain way. The mind is craving permanence, and this person couldn't do things your way permanently, so the mind was getting frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And then you guys might have broke up. And when you broke up, you might have even been more angry or more frustrated. You might have been lonely or bored, or you might have been missing this person. This is because the mind's craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, it's not permanent. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, more likely than not, one of you would have died first. And if the mind's craving permanence, when you're experiencing impermanence, the mind is going to get those painful feelings. So one way to say this is that the mind's craving permanence. Another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change, right? You can look at your life at times where things were changing the most. Like you're changing living locations, you were changing jobs, changing relationships. These are the times that you were struggling the most because the mind doesn't like change. You can see this in a situation where someone's died. Oftentimes people think it's love that causes grief and sorrow and sadness when somebody dies, but it's actually not love. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. That doesn't actually cause painful feelings. What's causing the painful feelings when grandma or grandpa or mom or dad or brothers and sisters or people like this are dying is the mind is craving permanence. It's wanting this person to be permanent. If they're alive, the mind's getting what it wants, so it's happy. But when the mind's experiencing this person dying, experiencing this impermanence, the mind doesn't like that. Because the mind in the unenlightened state lacks the wisdom that the world around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. None of us are permanent, but the mind wants grandma and grandpa to be permanent. But because grandma and grandpa were born, they have to die. That's the only reason, right? Because whatever arises, it's going to change and it's going to fade away. That's impermanence. But if our mind is craving permanence, when grandma and grandpa die, the mind will really struggle. It'll grieve and have sorrow and sadness during that time. Just like when the person, you guys break up, you'll have sorrow and sadness during that time too. You can even see it during a wedding. If you've ever been to a wedding and like brothers and sisters are getting married, people might be crying. Mom and dad, grandparents, brothers and sisters, right? Well, this is a wonderful thing. This person's going off into the world with another relationship, but the mind's holding on. That's my brother. That's my sister. How dare you take them away from me, right? Mom and dad, that's my son. That's my daughter, right? So people can be grieving at a wedding. It even happens when kids go off to school. You can see when they go off to school, like kindergarten or elementary school, or even getting dropped off at university. Parents can sometimes be crying and grieving, or the children can be too. Well, if it's love that's causing this, love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. The parents, of course, love their children. They want them to go to school. They want them to get educated. Why would you cry when your child's getting an education? See, you can see it's not the love that's causing this. It's the mind craving permanence and holding on. Because remember, I shared with you, none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You need to be able to independently verify what I'm sharing with you. What I'm sharing with you is that it's your own mind that causes these feelings. And this is very empowering when you can see it, because once you see what the true cause of your problem is, then you can fix it. If you continue to go around the world thinking that it's other people that are causing you to be angry and sad and frustrated, you'll never be able to eliminate this. So let's take a look at this in your own life. Don't believe what I'm sharing with you, that it's craving, desire, attachment, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings and that your mind's craving permanence. Look at a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. It might have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes, because at that time you might have been trying to blame somebody else. That's what the mind usually does. It tries to blame someone else for the feelings that you're having. But look at that situation. What was it that you wanted? What were you longing, yearning for? What were you craving? And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. You would have pleasant feelings. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you got angry or sad or frustrated. You should be able to see this in your own life. And if you can't, that's why you can ask questions and let me know. Because I've had plenty of students that ask me questions over the years. I like to share this one example because I think it's really helpful, is that one time a student contacted me and they said, David, I went to work the other day. My house looked beautiful. And when I came home from work, my wife had this craft project all over the house. It was a mess. And I came home and I got frustrated. How did my mind cause my own frustration? I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be frustrated? The answer is no. That this person's mind caused itself to be frustrated because it was expecting the house to look exactly the same when it came home as when it left, right? The mind was craving permanence. When the person went to work, their house looked a certain way, and when they came home, it just looked different. That's it. It's just impermanence. That's all that happened. But the mind was craving permanence, so it got frustrated. Say you went to the airport so excited to come to Thailand, and you just couldn't wait to get to Thailand. You're so excited to come to Thailand, but now you show up and your flight's delayed or it's canceled. You're going to be frustrated potentially if you have this longing, yearning, right? This is what's going to cause it, is the mind's longing, yearning. It's wanting to go to Thailand. It's craving for every single airplane to take off on time. But it's just not possible because we live in an impermanent world. Some planes are going to take off on time and some planes aren't. It's only a matter of time, if you travel enough, that you're going to have a maintenance issue with your plane, or the crew is going to have an issue, or there might be a weather delay or something like this. All that's happening here is impermanence. But if the mind is craving permanence, that's where your painful feelings are going to come in. So you need to be able to look inward and be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because if you continue to believe that it's other people that are causing these, you'll never actually be able to fix it. So that's why the very first teaching of the Buddha, he teaches you in a way that you can independently verify how it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, so that then you can fix it. And then he gives you the tools and the techniques of how to actually do it. So the problem that he discovered in the unenlightened mind is that it constantly is going up and down and up and down. This is called discontentedness. The cause of this problem is craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting things to be a certain way. And if it gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings. And if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings. The way to eliminate this is to eliminate the longing, the yearning, the craving, the wanting, the expecting things to be a certain way permanently. And then he teaches you the Eightfold Path, which is the complete solution to be able to solving this. Because when you're experiencing those painful feelings and the mind falsely attributes it to be something external, what you'll tend to do is push people away out of your life, or you'll push the situation away. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life. This is a typical thing that the mind does, thinking that that'll solve the problem, that if I just push this person away, everything will be fine. But you can see it's not, because you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated, or you still get agitated. Or the second thing you might do when you falsely think that the problem is external is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to fear it into doing things a certain way. And you can't live harmoniously this way, because people will tend to move away from you. You'll have broken relationships when you're being bitter, harsh, and hostile with people. Or the third thing you might do is you might put your expectations on people and try to pressure them or control them or force them to do things your way. This is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled. So as long as the mind is pushing people away or pushing a situation away, this is called aversion, or being bitter, harsh, and hostile with people, or putting your expectations on people, you can't live harmoniously with all people, because it's only a matter of time before people do things differently than you. Because of impermanence, not everybody does things your way. Things are different. But what the mind's ego thinks is my way is the right way, and everyone else is doing it the wrong way, and it needs to be my way, right? So the mind's lack of wisdom thinks that everyone should do things my way. And there's only one person in the world who does things your way all the time. Do you know who that person is? She knows. Anybody else know? Who does things your way all the time? Do you know? Yeah, you're the only one that does things your way all the time. So if you can only be peaceful and joyful around people who do things your way, if you can only love people who do things your way, you can only love one person in the world, because you're the only person that does things your way. And you might even have trouble loving yourself sometimes. That's why we do this meditation, because it's going to not only help you love others, but to love yourself too. Because with these cravings, desires, attachments in the mind, you'll have wants and expectations. And when people meet those, you will like them. But when people don't meet your expectations, when they don't do things your way, you will dislike them. And now it's only a matter of time before you run into people who don't do things your way, and now you dislike them. And then the mind wants to push them away. But what the Buddha is teaching you how to do is how to live harmoniously with all beings. And you can do this through transforming your own mind. You don't have to walk around with bitterness, harshness, and hostility and all these other feelings. But the mind does this because of its lack of wisdom, because it just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It has a confusion and misunderstanding. And the way to transform this is to cultivate wisdom. That's why none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You're learning, examining, investigating his teachings. You're reflecting on them to independently verify them, and you're practicing them to cultivate wisdom, because then you'll know the truth. And this wisdom is what transforms your mind. So you would like to actively be learning and growing and developing on the path, cultivating wisdom through examining his teachings and through practicing them. This is where the real transformation is occurring in your practice. This is why there aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha, because those things don't cultivate wisdom. You need to be able to cultivate wisdom and see true reality about how the world truly works. And this is what we mean by awakening to enlightenment. Awakening to this enlightened mental state is you're cultivating wisdom. And by cultivating wisdom, you're able to transform your mind, and now you're able to move it through training towards this enlightened mental state. And you'll be able to see that that's occurring, because situations where you were once angry and frustrated and annoyed and all these other feelings, when you're experiencing that exact same situation and your mind's completely peaceful and joyful, you'll know that it's these teachings that are working to transform your mind, because you've been actively working to train your mind with these teachings. So again, it's not about believe, and hope something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, developing in this life and seeing the improvement in this life, getting to an ideal life now, getting to peace and joy now in this life. That's what the teachings of the Buddha are about. Essentially, what the teachings of the Buddha are is to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll never experience any mental anguish or any mental pain ever again. So I'll share that with you again. The teachings of the Buddha are to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is inside your own mind. It's not the outside world. But what people tend to think is it's the outside world that's hurting them, and they go around and try to fix the outside world instead of doing the inner work within one's own mind, because the ego's in there constantly trying to tell you that what you're doing is right and what everyone else is doing is wrong, and it's got to be the outside world that is the problem. It can't be within your own mind. But when you get rid of this ego and you start eliminating it, you can see very clearly that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And like I mentioned, that's very empowering, because now when you see what the real problem is, you can actually implement the solution and you can actually fix it. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are, is it's the solution of how to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. Okay, so I'm just going to stop here and see if you guys have any questions on this meditation or anything that I've been teaching, anything I've been sharing, anything you've seen other places. You're more than welcome to ask all of those. So we have the microphones here for you guys. You're welcome to come up and get some microphones and take them back with you and kind of spread them out through the room. Anybody who is online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Put them in the comment section, and I'll be able to see those and answer your questions. If you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So it looks like this gentleman has a question, so go ahead, sir. It just takes like a second or two to engage once the lights come on. Not yet.
It works?
There it is.
All right. Thank you. In the beginning of the meditation, you said, no one needs you right now at one point. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I had this immediate feeling that things, actually a lot of people need me right now. And I think especially the Buddha needs you, because when we say we take refuge in the Buddha, also means the Buddha takes refuge in me. It's like the Buddha needs you or me to live the teachings. Otherwise, it's just words. If no one does anything that's there, no one lives by these things, then it's just words. So I thought, actually, I'm here for a reason, and Buddha needs me, and a lot of other people need you, because by the change that you make, you can have an influence on a lot of other people, positive influence. So I think I'm not just doing it for myself as a selfish way. I think it's more like contributing to harmony around you as well. So I felt, yes, a lot of people do need me in that case. And I had one larger question, and the rest is just smaller things. Recently, I've been reading Vietnamese Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. I think maybe a couple of people might know him, and I found his style very light and lighthearted, and I think he teaches a lot about joy and just smiling to all the different feelings and all the different things. And my simple question is, why don't you smile?
Why I don't smile? I smile all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. That's a simple answer. The first part of what you made as a statement, which I would suggest to you is unwise to come to a temple and make statements, because when you come to a temple, this is an opportunity for you to learn and grow and develop. You would be much wiser to ask questions, because then you'll get the help that you need, because the things that you talked about at the beginning aren't actually true. The Buddha doesn't need you. The Buddha is dead and gone. He doesn't need you to do anything whatsoever. He's already got to his peace and in the joy, and he'll never be back in this world ever again. You getting to enlightenment is the number one goal, but as long as you have a craving, desire, attachment to fulfill somebody else's expectation of what you think that they want of you, this is your own craving, desire, attachment, and it's just going to lead you to discontentedness. Because when people set expectations for you, and if you adopt that into your own mind, you're just going to be struggling to get up to that. And that person, if you get to that expectation, they'll be happy for a period of time, but then their expectations will change. And now they're not happy any longer. So the goal in this life isn't to meet other people's expectations, because that's just going to cause them to be discontent. And now you're going to be discontent by adopting those expectations. So it's important to not put the burden on yourself to think that you have some purpose in life, that you need to fulfill some purpose of the Buddha, or that the Buddha is giving you some directive that you need to do anything particular. Instead, it's learning and growing and developing, transforming your own mind and your own life. And that's not selfish. You know, there's some people that think that getting to enlightenment for yourself is selfish. This isn't selfish. It's actually more selfish to stay in the unenlightened state, because as long as somebody's in the unenlightened state, they're going to be causing harm to others, and now that harm is going to ripple throughout the world. So by you getting to enlightenment, if that's what you choose to do, is focus on learning and growing and developing yourself, now by you causing less and less harm and getting to the point where you're not causing any harm whatsoever, you won't be putting out any harm. And yes, that wisdom that you've cultivated to get to enlightenment, the people around you will be able to learn and develop from that, but they need to choose to do that. We're not here to push the teachings into other people's life. So you learning and growing and developing is what the Buddha taught, is you to focus on your practice and developing your practice. And by you doing that, other people will benefit from it. Have a question? Mm-hmm. Not yet. I can hear you, but okay. There you go.
Perfect. As a parent, you try to educate your kids to treat other people in some way, not to be bullies or not to talk nicely. Mm-hmm. And when they don't, when they act like bullies or something like that, I feel bad. Mm-hmm. So
okay, so this is the mind being attached and craving, right? Like if you want your child to permanently be safe, this is the longing, the yearning, right? Then when that's not occurring, you'll be frustrated, angry, or any other discontent feeling, right? And sometimes when we talk about this want, we need to understand that it's a longing, a yearning, right? If we have this longing, yearning for things to be a certain way, that is going to produce discontentedness. But if you are all the way over here on the other side, where you could care less about what's happening to your child, you're not going to be peaceful and joyful there either, right? This is what the mind sees very clearly in the unenlightened state, is this craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning, or the other side, where, what do you mean? If I don't want my child to be safe, does that mean I just don't care about my child? The answer is no, because what the Buddha is doing is guiding you to come to the middle, where you can practice the middle way. The middle way in this situation related to children would be to guide them and teach them how to be safe and make wise decisions towards their safety. And then in situations where they're not safe, because when they go out in the world, they're going to not be safe sometimes. And when they come home and you find out about that, you talk with them, you guide them, you help them to understand better decision making. Because I'm also a father as well. And my son's gone to school in the past and has had problems with or issues with bullies. And then when he came home, we needed to talk about it, about how to solve this for the future. And there were multiple incidences where this has occurred. And sometimes what I was taught when I was growing up is if somebody tried to bully you, you just fought them back. But this doesn't actually produce beneficial results, because when you put out the hostility and bitterness, it just keeps coming back to you. So I needed to help him to understand how to make wise decisions to eliminate this, so that he no longer experienced this kind of treatment at school. So over here, where you're longing, yearning, wanting your child to always be safe, they can't be because of impermanence. They're going to sometimes be unsafe. So that's going to produce discontent feelings, painful feelings. But over here, where you could care less, you're not going to like that either, right? So that's why the Buddha invites you to come to the middle, where you can make wise decisions to guide your children and cultivate wisdom and help them to make wise decisions. And when they are unsafe, to be able to then understand how to make better decisions to become safe. And now you can be peaceful and joyful there if you don't have an attachment to your child. But the thing is that the mind's going to have attachment to your children, especially early on in your practice, like you're just getting started, coming here for the first time. You're going to have an attachment to your child. It took my wife many years to eliminate her craving. It took me as well. I had to train my mind to not be attached to my son. And then when you do, that's where you're liberated, where you won't be yelling and hollering at your children, because I'm sure that's part of what, you don't do that. Okay, good. Sometimes parents do, and it would be understandable if you did, because oftentimes when there's a craving in the mind, when they're doing something that you think is unwise, you might yell or holler or be bitter or harsh with them in some way. But what you'll notice is your relationship will drastically improve when you don't have this longing, yearning for permanence for them. But there's a certain amount of training that you need to do to be able to get to that. Mm-hmm. And so I would encourage you to start with the Eightfold Path in the very first book. I don't have one up here, but there's plenty over here, and there's some back there as well. You can also download it for free from our website. You can take it and go print it yourself. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got some more questions. Let me answer Melody's question here online. I sometimes don't see her questions, so let me get hers in before. Let's see, Melody's asking, could I ask, what is the difference between pushing people away and building self-boundaries, for example, in a breakup? So what people talk about as boundaries is actually just a craving, desire, attachment. That's the mind longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way, where the mind is trying to teach other people how to do things your way. And as long as you do this, you'll never get to peace and joy, because you can't teach 8 billion people to do things your way. So this whole modern thing that people are talking about, establishing boundaries and communicating boundaries and all of this is just going to lead to your dissatisfaction, because you can't teach 8 billion people in the world to do things your way. All you can do is make wise decisions about what you would like to do. So pushing someone away, what we call this aversion, is where the mind thinks that these painful feelings that you're having is coming from this person. And the mind thinks the way to solve this is to push them away. But that doesn't actually solve the problem, because the mind is having what the Buddha refers to as wrong view. What wrong view is where you falsely attribute the feelings you're experiencing to something external. The mind's blaming it on something external. And as long as you have wrong view, you'll continue to push people away, and you'll never solve your problem. So when you focus on right view, which is understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you still might choose to leave a relationship, right? Like, let's just say somebody was physically abusive. You might still choose to leave that relationship. But on the inside, you know that if there's any discontent feelings in the mind, that it's being caused by your own cravings, desires, attachments. So from the outside looking in, it looks exactly the same. One person is leaving a relationship, the other person's leaving the relationship. But this person who's pushing the person away and moving out of the relationship is blaming the other person for the difficulties and struggles that they're experiencing in their discontent feelings. This person is still leaving the relationship, but they're maintaining right view, understanding that it's their own mind that's causing these discontent feelings, and then they're going to work on their own mind to eliminate their cravings, their longing, your yearning, the wanting and expecting. And now this person is going to get to a point where they're healed and their mind is no longer experiencing painful feelings. So what you would like to be able to do is maintain right view and make wise decisions about who to involve in your life, either as a partner or friends or other people like this, because this is going to produce wholesome results in your day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. Okay, I saw some other mics go out. I don't know who's first. And I think there's some back there too. That's my son.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question about right speech. So I've been trying to practice it more like the last days. And there is sometimes I cannot like do all the requirements. I will say, like, for example, the right time. So I've been practicing more like speaking more respectfully, kindly, and the other ones, but like the right time. So if I understood well, right time is about being sure that I am calm and the other person is calm and we can have a talk at this moment. Or yeah, basically that, I think it is. So sometimes it's not the case because of the conversation. So because people get emotional or frustrated or something like that. And so I'm just focusing on doing then the other ones, being still respectful and still kind, even if I feel discontentment at this moment. So my question is like, how I can continue practicing right speech. I mean, like, can I still have this right speech even if I feel discontentment at the moment and it's not the right time?
So you would like to get to the point where you're practicing all those 5 factors, speaking at the proper time, which is ensuring you're not interrupting, that your mind is calm, and that also the other person's mind is calm. So that's the proper time. And then there's true, gentle, beneficial, with a mind of loving kindness, right? So the answer is yes, you need to get to the point where you're always speaking at the proper time, and understanding that it's going to take you time to get to that, because your mind's got craving, desire, attachment still, right? So you're gradually dialing this in. Like, you know, the speaker system, you would tweak these dials to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. You're going to need to gradually bring your practice up to that. And it's going to take you many months and years to be able to get to that point. But if you're noticing that you're having difficulties with speaking at the proper time, you might just spend several weeks just really honing in on that one. I had to do that. You know, I noticed in the past I used to interrupt people because I had a craving to speak and I just wanted to jump in there and talk. And I spent several weeks just working intensely just on that one thing alone, still doing the meditations, still doing all the other teachings, but just really honing in on that in all my conversations. So you're going to need to pay attention to some of these different factors, and don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect today. That it's not about being perfect today. It's about gradually building up your practice over a long-term period. Some more questions?
1, 2. So the Buddha taught 4 meditations, and the goal is to gain wisdom, to become peace, calm. There's some cultures around the world that they use laughing. Let's say the guy, he mentioned smiling, laughing, like laughing meditation, or a form of dance or singing, or as a form to like get into a conscious level. Is this possible? Is this even sex? Some people think that through sex they can become, as a practice, if it's intimacy or something, become enlightened through dance or singing or through laughing, healing modalities. Is this possible? Is this written in the book? Did he ever mention these kind of things in the volumes, or is this something?
No, that's just trying to use external things to please the mind. you can't use sex to get to enlightenment. In fact, as long as someone's having sex, you won't be able to experience enlightenment. You can get to the second stage of enlightenment, which the mind's going to be quite peaceful in the second stage of enlightenment, but you're still going to get agitated and frustrated and annoyed. And you can see this for those of you guys that have had sex. You see when you're having sex or afterwards for a few hours, a few days, there'll be like a glow in your mind. You'll have all these pleasant feelings, but then eventually that fades away. And now you want sex again. And if you can't get it, you'll be agitated or frustrated or annoyed. So as long as you have a craving for sex, you'll continue to be agitated and frustrated and annoyed. But what I encourage people to do, particularly young people, because a lot of the people who study with me are young, but not everybody's young who studies with me. But for young people, if you're looking to have a family and you have a life partner and these kinds of things, if you'd like to continue to have sex, continue to have sex. Just, I would suggest to you to do it wisely based on the third precept that the Buddha teaches, so you're not causing harm. But then at some point in your life, you're going to decide that, been there, done that. How many times can I do that? You'll kind of be ready to move beyond that. We're not going to be on our deathbed still having sex. But you'll see that your mind experiences all this peacefulness and all this joy. And when you have sex, you'll be happy for a period of time, but then the mind's going to go back to the agitation and frustration. So laughing, dancing, having sex, if people choose to do these things, sure, have fun, do those kinds of things. But you shouldn't think that they are what's going to lead you to enlightenment, because the underlying cause that's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state is what's called ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom. And as long as that's in the mind, you can't get to enlightenment. And part of the lack of wisdom is to think that somehow laughing or dancing or sex is going to somehow lead to a heightened state, because enlightenment is a permanent mental state. The pleasure that you experience through sex, it's temporary, right? The pleasure you experience through laughing is temporary. The pleasure you experience through dancing is temporary. And it doesn't mean you can't do these things. You can do these things, but you just understand that as long as you allow your mind to crave and long and yearn for them, you'll be happy when you're getting it, but when you don't, you'll be angry and frustrated. So an enlightened being will still laugh. They still smile. That's why I was interested this gentleman said what he said, because he hasn't seen me. He hasn't been around me. And he said that I never smile. For those of you guys that have been around me, I'm laughing and smiling all the time, right? But also, an enlightened being will dance. There's no harm in dancing. You're not causing any harm. But the thing is that in the unenlightened state, you can only be happy when you're dancing. And then when you're not dancing, you feel, and you don't go dancing for a while, you feel miserable, right? But by the time you get to enlightenment, when you're dancing, you're having fun and you're enjoying that. But when you're not dancing, you're also enjoying that too, whatever that is that you're doing. You can enjoy all things. But there's nothing external that's going to produce inner peace and inner joy. That's coming from one's own mind. The way that the Buddha helps you to understand this is that it's these 10 individual pollutions in the mind that are keeping it in the unenlightened state. And it's when you clear these pollutions out of the mind that the mind will brighten up into this enlightened mental state. So you got to get these pollutions out of the mind, and then that's where the more peace and more joy. And this is a gradual process. You'll see the unwholesome qualities gradually diminishing and the wholesome qualities gradually increasing. So it's not like one day you're enlightened and the next day you're not. It's a gradual progression where the mind's brightening up more and more and more. That's what, like this meditation, the Buddha talks about how getting rid of your anger and hatred, for example, you're not going to know each day how much of it you've gotten rid of, but when it's completely gone, you'll know that, right? So as you're gradually wearing away these pollutions, you'll see that the mind will gradually brighten up more and more and more, but it's not coming from anything external. It's all internal, the work that you're doing.
Yeah. So if I read on another book outside of these books, and it says that, and let's say in another culture, if I'm reading as I travel or something, and it says that this community uses dances as a form of level of consciousness or to get enlightened and reach wisdom, I can individually verify that this is not true.
Yeah, you can independently verify it. The highest, most ultimate teaching of the Buddha is called dependent origination, where he gives you 12 interlinking steps to show you exactly why you're experiencing discontentedness and why you're experiencing rebirth as well. And he shows you these 12 interlinking steps, and you can independently verify them. And the very first one is ignorance. That's like the first domino, right? The first domino. Now there's this cascading effect that leads to the discontentedness and the rebirth. And when you independently verify this teaching, you understand that ignorance is the problem, the unknowing of true reality, the confusion and misunderstanding. And you understand the way to fix that is wisdom. And there's no amount of dancing or laughing or sex that's going to cultivate that wisdom to be able to produce enlightenment. And like I mentioned, someone might choose to do these things, and that might be something that someone chooses to do, but it's not what's going to lead to one's enlightenment. Mm-hmm. I think there was some microphones back there. Yeah.
I have one question.
Sure.
I've noticed that when someone really wants me to do, it's like I feel like a bit pushed away from doing that thing. For example, with my mom, she really wants me to go home. She really, really wants it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it a bit pushes me away from doing it. In the same way, when I'm at home, like she really wants me to play the piano, and I don't feel like doing it when she...
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, this is the mind. Like whenever somebody tries to pressure or force you to do something, you want to dig your heels in and not do it. And this is the mind's way of actually even helping the other person. Because if somebody's craving and putting expectations on you, if you actually do what they want, it's like feeding a monster. Right? And then this monster gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just keeps putting more and more expectations on you, right? So you can actually help your mom by making those choices. Those are actually wise choices. If she's like longing, yearning, and putting pressure on you to come back home, it's actually better not to go home, because it's going to help her mind to let go of you, because she's holding on to you and craving for you to be permanent. Whereas if you just go home, yeah, then you're going to get the next expectation and the next one and the next one and the next one. I think you've heard me share that when I was growing up, my family, when I was about 17, they knew I was hanging out with a lot of my guy friends, and they came to me and they said, "David, you're hanging out with your guy friends too much. You should get a girlfriend." I thought about it for about 2 months or so. And I was like, all right, I'll go get a girlfriend. So I went and got a girlfriend, started spending time with her. And then they came to me and they were like, "David, you're spending too much time with your girlfriend. You need to spend time with us." I'm like, man, you can't make these people happy. So then I told my family, I was like, I'm not here to meet your expectations. I'm here to live the life that I would like to live, not to live your life. But oftentimes as children, you don't understand that. And you might be still trying to live up to your parents' expectations. And as long as you do that, it's actually going to keep them in the unhappy state longer. Because when they set expectations for you and you work really hard, you're not enjoying that, you're like putting pressure on yourself to get to their expectations, they'll be happy temporarily for like a week or two or so, but then their expectations are going to change and they're not happy anymore, and now you have to work feverishly to get to their next level of expectations. And again, they're happy for a period of time, but then they want more, right? So the best way, the most loving and kind thing you can do for anybody, especially your parents, is to help them to allow their mind to let go. So that's essentially what your mind's doing, is it just is like, I don't feel comfortable doing what this person's imposing on me. That's what some people choose to do. Other people, though, they subscribe to that. When their parents are putting expectations on them, they actually conform to their parents' expectations. And it's like feeding a monster, because as long as you keep putting this expectations, you keep feeding their expectations, it's just going to grow and become bigger and bigger, one thing after another after another. So I spotted this when I was 17 years old, and I told my family, I'm not here to meet your expectations. But that didn't stop them from trying. Right? They still tried. And then each time they tried to put their expectation on me, they see that I didn't do it. And eventually they stopped trying, because they knew that that guy's not going to do what we want. So yeah, this is actually helpful for your family to not do what they're expecting you to do. But if you still enjoy playing the piano, for example, you might find another way to do that when your mom's not around, so that you can still do what you enjoy, but you're not feeding her craving.
Hi. So I wanted to ask you about something that's been frustrating me for the past couple months. So it's a situation at work, right? So I'm very passionate about my work, and there is one person I work with who goes out of his way to hurt the work I'm doing, and I think that I tend to perceive that as harm, and every time that something like that happens, I don't want to put hurt back into the world, so I don't push back against it, right? So why I try to give it the benefit of the doubt and take it constructively, but it happens frequently enough that I'm aware that it's deliberate. And what's frustrating me is that every time this happens, now it's like I'm expecting it to happen, and then my inability to stop it from happening frustrates me. And like going by what you've shared with us this morning, I believe there might be something wrong with how I'm perceiving the situation. So I want to ask you about that.
Can you talk about the first part again? I didn't quite hear what you said. Like, what's the incident? What's the situation that's causing your thoughts on all of that?
So there's parts of my work I'm really passionate about. And there's one person in my workplace who keeps hurting that work, right? Sabotaging it for reasons of ego. And everyone else is really good. I love my work. So I don't want to extricate myself from the situation. I want to be there.
Okay.
But when these things happen, it frustrates me a lot. And yeah.
Can you give specific examples?
Okay, so I'm a software engineer. So I spent like there was this thing that we had to build, and I felt really passionate about it. So I spent like 1 week building things out that should normally take around a month to build. And by the end of it, when I shared my progress and then tried to orient ourselves in a future direction of where we can go further and how we can build further, it was met with a lot of there was a lot of pushback because I think it came not from him but from me.
Okay.
Right? And then I try, like I said, I try to take it constructively each time. So I focus on the pushback itself and how to address it constructively.
Okay.
But then the issue is that it happens all the time, and then like I feel frustrated in that I don't I feel like there's a smart game being played around me, and I refuse to participate in it. And the frustration I feel is because I feel harmed by it, and I don't protect myself from it.
Okay. All right. So whenever you're doing anything in the world, whether it's software engineering, whether it's dancing, whether it's building a new house, whether it's going on vacation, whatever it is, when you're experiencing success in your life, there's going to be people who support you and encourage you and are right there like, wow, cheering you on, thinking that what you're doing is outstanding. But then there's also going to be a certain types of people that try to knock you down and think that what you're doing is horrible. This is impermanence. Not everybody's going to be supportive in the world. Not everybody's going to see the wonderful things that you're doing and think that that's so great. In fact, because of their cravings, they can oftentimes be jealous, and they can have hurtful feelings in their own mind, that jealousy, and they think the way to solve that is to push you down and to have you not be successful, and they think that that's going to get rid of their painful feelings that they have. So there's going to be people in your life that are very supportive and encouraging and uplifting and right behind you and say, go, 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 you're doing a great job. And then there's going to be people who try to knock you down. This is going to be, even when you're enlightened, you're going to have this kind of thing occasionally. By the time you get to enlightenment, 99.9% of all your relationships will be completely wonderful. You'll have great experiences, and you won't have any of these kinds of things going on in your life, but there'll still be kind of like a very small situation every once in a while. It doesn't happen very often, but once in a while you'll have somebody that'll do or say things that are opposite of what you typically experience, but your mind won't be angry or frustrated in that. What you're experiencing now is you're frustrated because you want this person to be a certain way, and they're not that way. That's the craving for permanence. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because in my opinion, it's wise to be supportive of others and encouraging and uplifting. But that's not the way everybody in the world is, right? But the mind in the unenlightened state, it's going to crave permanence. It's going to want everybody to conduct themselves in a certain way. And when the mind's getting that, it'll be happy. But when it's not getting that, it'll experience the painful feelings like frustration. So your frustration here, there's an underlying cravings, desires, attachments, where maybe you have to look at your own mind, because I can't tell you 100%. You need to look at your own mind. Is it you're craving this person to support you? You're craving this person to not talk bad about you to other people? You're craving this person to admire your work? I don't know. That's where the mindfulness comes in. You need to be able to cultivate awareness of your mind, to be able to look inward and be introspective, and to be able to see what is it that your mind's longing, yearning for here. And then you need to train your mind to let go and realize that this person is not going to be that way in a relationship with you. That's not the way they are. And your job in this life isn't to change that person. You just need to let go of wanting this person to be a certain way, so that you can then continue to do what you know is wonderful and not be frustrated because of what they're choosing to do. So even what I do here, sharing the teachings of the Buddha, not everybody supports what I'm doing. Not everybody thinks that what I'm doing is wonderful. There's plenty of people who do, but there's a small segment of people who think that, oh, this guy's doing something horrible. He's teaching foreigners Buddhism. This is for us. We shouldn't teach it to other people, or who knows what they might be thinking, right? I don't even get into that, right? But there's obviously lots of people that support what it is that what I'm doing and what I'm choosing to do, which is share these teachings. So even when you're doing something as wholesome as sharing the teachings of the Buddha, you'll have some people that support you and some people that try to knock you down. But if you know what you're doing is wise, you can just keep on walking forward and choose to surround yourself by people that are supportive of what it is that you're doing. So you're going to need to eliminate whatever cravings you're having for this person to be a certain way. And that's where you'll get free of your frustration, and you'll be able to just continue to walk forward to do the things that you know are wise. In order to get rid of that cravings, desires, attachments, you're going to need to train your mind. There's actually a teaching here. I'll show it to you guys. I've taught it in this program, and I teach it many times. It's all the way back here at the back, or at the front. It's the core central teaching of the Buddha. It's called the Eightfold Path. And what this is 8 individual factors that you need to learn and grow and develop and dial them in closer and closer in your life. And this is what's going to fully transform your mind. This is just an image that's representing it. But behind each one of these factors is actually teachings from the Buddha, words from the Buddha, that helps you to be able to see the entire path to training your mind. So I can share what I just shared with you, that it's craving, desire, attachment that's causing your frustration, and you need to train your mind to eliminate it. But your mind's not going to know how to do that until you're practicing this. You need to practice this in order to mature the mind and develop the mind so that it's willing to release whatever the cravings, desires, attachments are. So just like I mentioned to this young lady, I recommend that you start with the first book. And if you start with our first book, and you're taking the classes regularly, like Sunday and Wednesday, and I also teach classes Monday through Friday sometimes too, that you can gradually learn these teachings, and you can learn this. And it's been recorded many times, so even if you don't take a live class, you can learn on our YouTube video and our podcast and things like this, where you can learn this teaching inside and out. And this is what's going to completely help you to transform your mind. So it's one thing to tell you what to do, it's another thing to teach you how to do it. And that's what this is doing. It's teaching you how to do it. What I just shared with you is what to do, but you can't do it until you have the tools and techniques to help you. And that's what this teaching is going to do. Other questions? Amen? Yeah.
The mind detaches from a lot of external stimulus, and cravings and wanting dies. A feeling of seclusion comes about. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is when you're eliminating your cravings, desires, attachments, you feel like you want to go into seclusion and be alone by yourself. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So what the mind tends to do is, in the unenlightened state, before it has these teachings of the Buddha, it's craving, longing externally, wanting all these external things to be fulfilling. So it's chasing all these external things. When you're scaling that back and you're pulling back the craving, desire, attachment, the mind doesn't just come right to the middle. It will overshoot that, and it will go to the other side, where it tends to be dull and lethargic and sluggish, and sometimes feeling like you want to be secluded and you don't even want to see other people. But that's still not where you need to be. That's not the middle way. That's not enlightenment. So you need to arise what's called the enlightenment factor of energy, where you have initiative and vigor and vitality and ambition and motivation, but it's not based in craving, desire, attachment, because that's usually what those things are based in. For the unenlightened mind, is it's craving things, and that's where it gets its motivation. You need to learn how to come out of that sluggishness and that desire to be secluded, and be able to come to the middle where you have ambition and motivation and encouragement. But if you need to be secluded for a period of time, do that, because sometimes people feel lonely and bored when they're by themselves. And that's because it has a craving to do things with other people, right? So if you need to be secluded, if you need to be alone for whatever period of time, for however many weeks or months or whatever, then do that. And that'll train your mind to let go of any longing, yearning to be with other people. But ultimately, to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to come to the middle where you're completely comfortable being around other people. But sometimes the mind does it's almost like a turtle, goes in its shell a bit. But if you need to be in the shell, go in the shell and enjoy that, right? And train your mind to be unattached to the outside world. But ultimately, an enlightened being is going to step out into the world and be completely content and peaceful, living amongst all beings, including people who are unenlightened. You know, a part of an enlightened being's mind is you can be completely comfortable around anybody and everybody, that you don't have these expectations of others to be a certain way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions you guys have?
Yes. My question is, should we have expectations of ourselves?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So no, you shouldn't even have expectations for yourself. You can have goals and objectives that you're working towards, but not expectations. As soon as you put an expectation on yourself, in some situations you're going to meet those expectations and you're going to be really happy. And in other situations, you're not going to meet those expectations and you're going to be sad and frustrated and feeling miserable and guilty and shameful. So an expectation is a longing and yearning and wanting things to be a certain way. That's not going to lead to peace and joy. But again, being on the other side, where you could care less what's going on in your life and you just sit around and blah, 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 feeling miserable, you're not going to be peaceful and joyful there either. So the middle way is where you have goals, objectives, or interests that you're working towards. Now, some people, they say that I have this goal and I'm working towards this goal. But if you ask yourself, if you get that goal, are you going to be happy? And if you say yes, and if you don't get that goal, you're going to be sad. And if you say yes, that's not a goal. That's an expectation. That's a longing and yearning. A true goal is something that you can work towards, and whether or not you accomplish it or not, you can maintain your peace. You can maintain your joy, right? So if I'm working towards a certain goal and I'm 80% of the way there, and you're not meeting your goal, you can look at this true goal and you can say, 80% of the way there. Well, I guess I could give myself more time, right? Let me expand my timeline, give myself more time. Or I could add resources to this to be able to help me get to my goal. Or you know what? The 80% is just fine. I don't need to go any further. This is completely fine. And now if you can do that, it's a true goal. It's a true objective, because in some situations, you're not going to be able to meet your goals and objectives. And I went through a period of time in my early 20s where I intentionally set goals that I knew that I would never be able to achieve, in order to be able to train my mind to be comfortable with not obtaining a goal. Because at one time, I also was chasing after things, thinking that this was a goal, when in reality it wasn't a goal. It was a craving, desire, attachment, a want and expectation masquerading as a goal. So you would like to get rid of your expectations and form wise goals, wise objectives, wise interests that you work towards, but then be able to maintain your peace and joy whether or not you get to those goals or not. And now you just gradually work towards those. It's kind of like the old saying, I'm sure you've heard it, you shoot for the moon, and if you miss, at least you'll be among the stars, right? It's the same thing. You set a goal, you're headed towards the moon, and hey, if I get to the moon, great, that's wonderful. And if I don't, hey, that's fine too. I'll just be pleased right here among the stars, right? And it's the same thing with any types of goals you have in your life. You can do that same type of approach.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Yes, some more questions?
Okay.
You're welcome,
Thank you.
Melanie.
So I want to talk about my personal situation, which I've been struggling with recently. So I'm working with someone that I used to have personal relationship, but now everything already end, and I just want to get what I'm supposed to do professionally done. But the other person think the other way. Sometimes he keep associate personal stuff and professional stuff together, and cause me trouble sometimes. And I find it's hard to get things done smoothly with this kind of situation. And sometimes he blames me for the things from other than work. So I find it's really hard. So I guess it's when two persons have different expectation towards certain thing, how can we better deal with it and try to make something get done smoothly, at least for a short period of time? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, this is where, just like this question, expectations are just going to get in the way of having a wonderful relationship, satisfying, fulfilling relationships, because this other person can't meet your expectations permanently, and you can't meet their expectations permanently. And when you're not meeting each other's expectations, that's where the painful feelings come up, and that's where the anger and the frustration comes in. And now the mind's going to blame the other person. This is the lack of wisdom that the mind has, right? There's basically three things that you need in a life partnership in order to be successful. The first one is you and your partner need to understand that you're not perfect, that you're not perfect people, that you are imperfect, that you are a work in progress, and there's more work to be done. The second thing is you need to be sure that you're not blaming each other for your feelings that you're experiencing, because it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And as long as you're blaming each other, you'll never be able to get to the root problem and the root solution to be able to solve it. And then the third thing is the individuals need to be able to be willing to get the help that they need in order to continue to grow and develop, become inwards focused, to be able to grow and develop and become a better and better person. So if you don't have these three things in a relationship, it's going to, go off the rails, and you're going to have difficulties. Because if someone walks around thinking they're perfect, and that their feelings are being caused by others, and they start blaming other people, and they're not willing to do the inner work to grow and develop and become a better human being, then that means they're just stagnated. And that means if both people are functioning that way, individually they're stagnated, they're not learning and growing and developing, they're thinking that they're perfect, they think that everyone else is the problem, they're not willing to grow and learn and develop as a human being. Now they are stagnated as individuals, so the relationship's going to stagnate. So what you would like to do is focus on your own learning, your own growing, your own developing. And then if you're going to have a partner, before you decide that, yes, I would like to go forward in life with this person as my life partner, be sure you have those three things. That they understand that they're imperfect, that they're a work in progress. Make sure that they understand that their feelings are coming from their own mind. And this is very rare that someone understands this. So they're going to need to be able to see the teachings of the Buddha to be able to understand how their own mind is causing these feelings. And they need to be willing to do the inner work and the growth and the development. Oftentimes people meet someone like that in a community like this, where people are learning and growing and developing. Not that you should come to the temple looking for a partner necessarily, but that tends to be where people meet someone who's of this type of nature. having a relationship with someone in your work environment is oftentimes very challenging, because if the relationship doesn't work out, now you guys are still working together in the same company. So this can be oftentimes a challenge, and you really need to proceed with caution when you do those kinds of things. I actually met my wife in the work environment. I was actually her boss, and within the first 2 weeks of hiring her, I let her know how I felt about her, and I said, "Hey, your job is secure. No worries. If we walk away from this conversation, I won't think twice about it." But we decided that we were going to have a relationship together, and what we decided was that she was going to step away and not work. This was a company that I owned. She was going to step away and not be an employee any longer, so we could develop our relationship. And then after a year and a half of developing our relationship and living together, and now we were solid as a couple and a boyfriend and girlfriend, she ultimately ended up deciding to come back to the company. But now our relationship was already solid, and now it was, we were boyfriend and girlfriend at that point. We were in a relationship, and we knew it was a long-term relationship. We've been together for 18 years now, right? So I would never say never date anybody in the work environment, because that's not true, because sometimes these things actually work out really well, but you just need to proceed with caution. We put a lot of thought into this, and we realized with her being a new employee, and if we started dating, it just wouldn't be good. It wouldn't have her being an employee at all. It just wasn't good. But by her stepping away, us developing our relationship, and now that we're in a stable, steady relationship, her coming back into the company was much different at that point, a year and a half later. So you'll just need to proceed with caution whenever you're choosing to have a relationship. And since you've already had a relationship with someone in the work environment, that can be a real struggle to continue. And that's where you might need to decide whether or not you would like to go get another job somewhere else, or whether it makes sense for you to stay in that environment. Because if that person isn't leaving and you're continuing to be there, this person's continuing to blame you for their feelings, which isn't actually true. You're not the one causing their difficulties and struggles, but they don't see it that way. So if it's a large company, you might be able to get transferred to another department or something like that. But if not, you might decide to just leave the company and find another position somewhere else. But those are decisions you need to make, because only you know the variables involved and what would be wise in those situations. But just proceed with caution when you're dating people at work, because this can turn out really well, like it did for us, or it can have other results as well. No other questions? Okay. I don't see any online either. Don't see any questions here. So what I'll do then is I'm just going to end class here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Really appreciate that you're interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha. I'm here to be able to help you guys learn and grow and develop. Everything I do is available for you at no cost. I teach classes, courses, retreats. You can see the calendar over there on the bulletin board. You can see it on our website. You'll be able to see all the different options. You can even get personal guidance, where I sit down with you and be able to help you take what you learn in the classes and relate it to your day-to-day situation. So if you would like help, whether you're here in Thailand or whether you travel, I've set up in such a way that you don't need to be here in Thailand to be able to learn, because I live stream all of our classes. So you could be regularly learning the classes, you could be reading the books, you can even be getting personal guidance where we meet in Zoom one-on-one and things like this. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to learn and grow and develop. You just need to decide that you're done with the broken relationships, you're tired of the anger and the frustration and the hostility, and you'd like to do something different, and you'd like to do something new. And that's where the teachings of the Buddha come in, where you can learn this better way of life. I don't think of it as a religion. There's no rites or rituals and ceremonies. It's not rules and commandments. It's essentially a self-help program, helping you to do this inner work to grow and develop into a better and better human being. And if that's what you're interested in, there's plenty of help for you here. You just need to decide that's what you're interested in and reach out for help, and I'll get you plugged in to the resources that you need, whether it's classes, courses, books, videos, podcasts, audiobooks, personal guidance, or any of the stuff that you need. It's all available at no cost. In terms of the classes that are coming up next, on Saturday, we have our Pali Canon and English study group here at 9 a.m. On Sunday, we have our group learning program at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's going to be here at the temple. On Sunday at 6:30 in the main hall, we have a meditation. That's during the Sunday night walking market. We have a 6:30 meditation at the main hall. And then here at 9 p.m., which is during the Sunday night walking market, I teach a class, but it's the same class I teach at 9 a.m. I teach it at 9 p.m. I do both of them here. And then on Fridays, we have a social event here. It's kind of like a party. If you'd like to come and hang out with some of the members of our community, we this week are going to have what's called Temple Game Fun Night, where we play board games and we have snacks and music playing. It's basically like a party, right, Joel? Joel's usually the life of the party. Right? He's like showing everybody how to play games, and we're all having a good time. So you guys are welcome to come. Other Fridays, we do movie night where we have our popcorn machine. We pop popcorn and watch movies. So it's a time for all of you guys to hang out with each other and to spend time as a social event. So if you guys would like to come to that at 6 p.m. on each Friday. And like I said, you'll see the details on the bulletin board over there, and you'll also see it on our website as well. And you're welcome to ask me or any of the other people that come regularly any of this kind of information. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.